What vitamins are good for ADHD? If you or a loved one has been suffering with ADHD, then you may be on a quest for trying to find some other way to alleviate or at least manage ADHD symptoms. If that sounds like you, then you are in the right place. I'm here to answer that question during today's video, so let's get started. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause Chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine and specialized in clinical nutrition. In this video, we're going to be going over the 7 most effective supplements for helping alleviate ADD and ADHD symptoms. Then we will discuss the most commonly asked questions when it comes to managing ADD and ADHD with supplements in combination with medications. These answers will help supercharge your success. And finally, I will be sharing with you a behind closed doors process for actually determining the cause of your ADHD so that you can stop just managing symptoms. Let's dive right on in. What are the 7 most effective supplements for helping alleviate ADHD symptoms? Well, let's go through these, talk a little bit about what they do, and I'll share even some proper dosing here and there throughout. Though, disclaimer, okay? Before you ever start any kind of supplement, if you are currently taking medications, though we are going to get into this, it is wise for you to ask your medical professional who puts you on those medications if the following are safe for you to use, or if there's any potential interaction, negative, synergistic, what have you, with what you're currently on, okay? Also, depending on if this is for a child or if this is for an adult, the dosing is very different. So you need to take that into consideration as you start adding these supplements into your regimen. Let's dive in, okay? So, number 1 would be the omega-3 fatty acids. There is probably the most amount of research done on the omega-3 fatty acids and for how it helps improve brain health. Most people don't realize that it's important for brain health. Though if you've been dealing with ADHD, you've probably heard of omega-3 fatty acids being important for you already. What we know omega-3 fatty acids for generally is cardiovascular health and trying to establish normal, healthy cholesterol levels. Some of the other claim to fame that omega-3 fatty acids have is they're really good at reducing inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause of all disease and illness in the system. But what you may have not known is that your brain is anywhere from 70 to 80% fat, depending on what source you cite. And those fats are predominantly made up of these omega-3 fatty acids. So if you're struggling with ADHD and you're not getting enough omega-3 fatty acids in your regimen on a regular basis, then your body doesn't even have the building blocks it needs to try to create a healthy brain. You can't generate the new brain cells that you should be able to while also maintaining the existing brain cells if you don't have the building blocks. Now, when you're looking at fish oils, on the label, you'll see most often some form of, or some amount of DHA and then another amount of EPA. Those are the most common fatty acids. And what you want to do is add them together. They should be around a gram or 1,000 milligrams, right? For a little kid, you could probably do 1,000 grams and get away with it. With my adults, it's closer to 3 grams that you actually want to get in for therapeutic effects. But omega-3 fatty acids are going to provide so much benefit to you and very much so have the ability to not just manage symptoms, but ultimately help to alleviate some of what's causing your ADHD if it's purely a lack of these building blocks that are necessary for proper brain function. Now, the next one I would recommend is zinc. Zinc is required for 20% of every biochemical reaction that happens in the body 24/7, and majority of people are not getting enough of it. Now, there is research that shows when zinc has been added to somebody who's already taking a medication for ADHD, that they were actually able to decrease the medication dosing by 40% because the zinc made it more effective. So again, check with your doctor first. It's also helpful to know what your zinc level is before you start supplementing. But as a general rule, you can safely add 20 to 25 milligrams of zinc into your regimen, into a kid's regimen, without really knowing where you're starting, okay? The third on the list is probably my second favorite compared to omega-3 fatty acids, and that is vitamin D. I will tell you firsthand, every patient I have tested with ADHD or anxiety or depression or MS, dementia, Alzheimer's, all of these brain health related issues have next to no vitamin D in their system. It's like critically low, the lowest of all of my patients. Any patient who has neurologic brain health related problems. So ADHD is one of those. Now, vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, so I very much so recommend knowing what the number is, which is a blood test, prior to adding supplementation of vitamin D, because it is a fat soluble vitamin, so it can cause toxicity types of problems, which ultimately you don't want to mess with. Getting too high of vitamin D into your system will start pulling calcium out of your bone and putting it into your blood. Calcium at high levels in your blood is very devastating to your kidneys and ultimately can create a heart attack. So seriously, know what the vitamin D level is before you add vitamin D into your world. Now for my kids, I normally do 1,000 IUs per day once I see what their level is. My adults, it's more around 5,000 for maintaining, but I have also had to do increased doses like 10,000 IUs when you're so critically low to bring you back up. Normally, what I would do if I am mega dosing a patient is I will recheck that vitamin D level within a month. Really, a month is all you need to get that up to snuff if you're using a quality vitamin D supplement. The type I like are also combined with K2. K2 is really protective. It's important for the cardiovascular system. It is not associated with blood clotting like K1 is, but K2 also helps keep the calcium in the bones where it belongs. So I can get vitamin D levels a little bit higher while keeping calcium in the bone, and that works really well. So the biggest thing is make sure you test so you're not guessing, okay? Number four is iron. Now, iron in our kids in America is the most common nutrient deficiency. In our adults, the most common nutrient deficiency is actually magnesium, which we're going to talk about here in a second because it's very important for brain health too. But let's talk about iron first. Iron is critical for brain function. So people who are dealing with ADHD could potentially have low levels of iron. Iron is not something I would suggest that you just start supplementing with either without having a blood test, because getting too much iron into your body and increasing what's known as your ferritin, those are your iron stores, actually is really devastating on your health. And iron is also not the easiest nutrient to take in a supplemental form without having gut problems, most commonly constipation. So with iron, before you put a kiddo on iron, it would be really helpful to know what their iron levels are. But you can also increase iron-rich sources of food where the body will naturally do what it needs to with the iron to help support this process. One of those would be broccoli, believe it or not. All your dark leafy greens are good. Obviously, red meat is awesome. Your game meats are awesome. Red meat, if you're going to add cow products in, make sure it's a grass-fed, grass-finished cow. Otherwise, don't bother. It's more detrimental than it is worth putting it into your system for the iron, okay? The next one is kind of just a good cover your bases for anybody and everybody. We should be supplementing with a multi-mineral and a multivitamin. And purely this helps to fill in the holes that we're not getting adequate, out of our diet. The other challenge we have right now is that our food supply is totally different than what it was 50 years ago. It doesn't have the same nutrient density to it, partly because the soils that it's growing in are not as nutrient plentiful anymore as well. So this is just kind of like easy wellness insurance, if you want to think of it that way, with not just a multivitamin, but also a multi-mineral, okay? Number 6 is magnesium. And I just alluded to this earlier, but this is the most common nutrient deficiency in American adults, okay? Magnesium makes up 1/3 of every single cell in the body. It's required for the other 80% of those biochemical reactions that happen 24/7. Remember, zinc accounts for the other 20%. So another critical electrolyte mineral, however you want to phrase it, that you need to make sure you're getting sufficient levels of in your body. And guess what? Your brain is heavily dependent on magnesium in order to have proper function. But here's the thing. Not all magnesiums, not all forms of magnesium actually can cross what's called the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain to be utilized. This blood-brain barrier is literally like a protective barrier that goes across the brain. Think of it as like your army men standing, arms linked together. They don't allow anybody in unless they're on the list and have special access. That happens with different forms of magnesium. So based off of what I know, what research has proven is the only form that we know will readily go across this blood-brain barrier is called magnesium L-threonate. Now, for kiddos, generally anywhere from 100 to 300 milligrams of magnesium would be a proper place to start. Adults, we need at least 400, if not more. And a key with magnesium is, regardless of what form you're taking, spread it out. Let the body be able to absorb it, because there are most commonly magnesium oxide, which would not do you much good for brain health, but it's the one that's most commonly sold, partly because it's super cheap. It works really good as a natural laxative if you take it in a higher amount. I don't think anybody wants to unintentionally end up spending time in the restroom. If you have troubles with that, that is an alternative natural solution for you. But to get the effect for the brain, you want magnesium L-threonate, and I would spread it out a little bit. Now, contrary to what some people believe, magnesium is not a sedative. It is used in a lot of formulations for helping with sleep, purely because it relaxes the muscular system and it kind of calms the nervous system down, but it does not actually make you sleepy. So you can use magnesium at the beginning part of the day and then do it again at the end part of the day, and you're not going to fall asleep. It actually just calms things down, which is why it could be really beneficial when you're dealing with ADHD. Now, the last supplement that we're going to talk about, number 7, is inositol. Inositol is not really readily available in our foods, but our brain is also very dependent on it for proper function. It, in concentrated doses, works really well at reducing agitation and anxiety. This is one that's actually calculated based off of weight. For most adults, anywhere from 12 to 8 grams of inositol divided out into 2 or 3 doses in a day would be ideal. So I'm curious, have you tried any of these nutrients that I just listed out before, or are you currently taking any of them now? Just comment down below your response so I can see what you guys are currently doing. Awesome, thank you. And now to get to the answers to the most commonly asked questions when it comes to supplementing for ADHD. One of the questions that gets asked regularly is, will supplements work just effectively as the ADHD medications? According to the research, the answer is no. And part of the reason is because we're missing a big component as to the why behind dealing with ADHD. Medications are really potent and they are able to change brain chemistry in ways that supplements cannot. Supplements are working at underlying deficiencies that might be contributing to why you may be dealing with these symptoms. But ultimately, if you really want to get the best results and resolution of your ADHD symptoms, you can't merely just take supplements, okay? Part of this is because if you're eating a diet that's full of things that are going to agitate the brain and keep you from being able to focus and concentrate because it's wreaking havoc on your gut, which also wreaks havoc on your brain, you can't out-supplement that. So basically, rule of thumb, you can't out-supplement a bad lifestyle. Supplementing is only a component of how you would actually try to handle ADHD naturally. It's not going to do the same thing as medication. And if somebody has to be on medication, honestly, they really should be looking at the lifestyle side of things as well, because the less medication you need to be on long-term, the healthier you will be. Another really common question is, how long will it take before I see results? That is a phenomenal question. And my answer for you is, I have no idea. Okay. The reason being is because every child, every person is unique, and where their body is already at with some of these nutrients that I recommended is going to be different for each person. The general rule of thumb, when you're trying to do things from an alternative natural side of medicine, is to give the body 2 to 3 months before you make any judgments. Part of the reason being is because your body is doing an inside job of trying to repair some of the deficiencies, some of the mechanisms behind what's happening that's producing these ADHD symptoms. Medications work differently, where they act on the symptom immediately. They don't try to resolve the underlying why you're ending up with a symptom in the first place. So it takes a little bit of time. So stay patient and keep moving forward and seeing what kind of progress gets made over a period of time. Now, the other most common question is, do supplements have side effects? Now, anything that we're ingesting could have some potential type of side effect, but part of this, I think where supplements get a really bad rap is because this side of the industry is not very well regulated. While approved, it's not necessarily regulated. So different manufacturers have different testing processes in place to assuring that their raw goods are of a set standard before they actually produce any type of supplement made from those raw goods. And on the backside of it, there's other companies that also will have more testing to assure that, yes, this is exactly what we said is in this product. It has a shelf life, like there's no contaminants, so on and so forth. So supplements are a hard industry to know where to go. Key with this is I would not get supplements from the grocery store or the bulk food stores, even if pricing looks better. Like there are some things that you get what you pay for kind of scenario. And when it comes to brain health, I would not be buying things at the bulk food store to try to bolster my brain health. Not knocking it for other things, but I wouldn't buy your nutrition there. I would get it from someone like myself, a healthcare provider who understands nutrition, or at least go to the natural health food stores and ask for the person who's in charge of that section of the store and get their opinion of what manufacturers they have there that are like the purest out there and good quality, and they're tested and they've got the different like good manufacturing processes, some of the different certifications that are out there for supplement companies. They can help guide you with that. So it does really matter. I think the side effects, as I was getting to, that can come at times from supplements are related to some of the fillers or binders that certain companies will use. Now, also, if you get too much of certain things like vitamin D, yes, you could totally end up with a side effect from a toxicity type of an issue. So knowing where you're starting is very key for minimizing that. And then, as I mentioned before, I got into the supplement section. If you're on medications, you want to make sure there's no type of interaction with these nutrients and the medication that you're on before you start taking them. Before I get into the behind closed door method for actually determining why you have ADHD in the first place, so you can finally stop managing symptoms, I just want to remind you to click that subscribe button down below, turn those notifications on. That way you never miss out on a future video. I am regularly producing videos. Every Monday through Friday, they are dropping. And I don't want you to miss out. So make sure you click that subscribe button down below, and we'll see you on a future episode. Okay, what is this behind closed doors method that I'm talking about that can help you determine why you're dealing with ADHD? And ultimately, once you know the why, you can stop managing the symptoms. My answer is, if you're not testing, you're guessing. Now, I'm sure you've probably been to the doctor, or your kid's been to the doctor, and different tests have been done. But the type of testing I am discussing is not one that your MD is readily able to do, because most MDs are part of the standard of care, and insurance gets to dictate a lot of what's being done. Now, not related to ADHD, but I have a friend right now who is being denied a surgery that absolutely needs surgery because the insurance said that instead of him having surgery right away, he needs to go through and do some PT and try some conservative management first. I can understand if there was a doctor who was always prescribing surgery for all of his patients and never trying anything else. But since when does insurance company know better than the doctor of what the person who they actually physically met needs? Very frustrating, but this is why you won't get this testing done with an MD, okay? The type of testing I'm talking about involves more than just blood work or urinalysis. It involves looking at the hair and evaluating what's there. This type of testing is being able to evaluate every single system all at once, because only if you can look at the person as a whole will you be able to determine where the issues are that are creating this need for the body to give you signals that something is wrong, which are known as your symptoms. And the reason why hair analysis is important is because you're not getting enough of the answer of the why is a person suffering with symptoms if you're only looking at blood and urine alone. There is vital information that comes from a hair analysis, like measuring heavy metals that are being eliminated, measuring your essential elements to see if those are insufficient ranges. This is the type of testing that I do with my patients on a regular basis, both here locally and all over the United States. The reason why testing is so important, as I was mentioning with the supplements, if you don't test, you don't know what you need. And then ultimately, you're just having a shotgun approach. I'm sure at this point in time, you're getting a bit frustrated of not getting the type of relief or resolution that you're after with whatever it is that you've tried when dealing with ADHD. Now, if this sounds amazing and you want to know more about how this works and how you can find out exactly what's causing your ADHD, then I have a surprise for you. Look down in the description below, click on it so it expands. There is a link down there for a 5-day health challenge. I'm personally inviting you to come to this health challenge where I guarantee you will figure out exactly how to determine what's causing your ADHD, how to understand that information, how to put all of that together so you have a plan that is specific to you, your needs, your causes, your whys. And only at that point in time, then will you actually have a clear roadmap moving forward of how to regain your health, how to really start dealing with the underlying why you're dealing with ADHD symptoms in the first place. So again, just click the link in the description down below and I will see you on the inside. I can't wait. Thank you so much for being here. I hope today's information was helpful for you. Remember to give me feedback because that really helps me create more information that you need to know. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode. God bless.